Hey, what's up you guys? Jason here. So it's been a while since I've done any 3D modeling, and I thought a good way to get back into it would be to do a simple project. So I made this little crate here in Blender to kind of shake the rust off. And I started off with the simple cube, default cube there, and I divided it up a little bit and delete the top and bottom faces. I separated the faces into the individual face parts here so that they're each their own plank or slat, whatever you want to call it. I'm not entirely sure what you call that here. Uh, Using the solidify modifier here to give it some thickness. And yeah, then I just went through and I was trying to decide whether I should scale these or just make an extra one that's small. So I went with the extra one that's small because I thought that'd be a little more what I'm looking for, because I didn't want this to be super uniform and perfect because it's going to be a stylized crate. I like to do a lot of pretty much only stylized stuff. Sometimes I try to go for realistic stuff, but very rarely. But yeah, just rotating and duplicating parts to create the top and bottom, getting a rough block out. Pretty standard, pretty basic workflow, you know. Block out the main shape and the silhouettes. Make sure it lines up with what you're looking for, and then build off of that. And let's see here. I'm going ahead and I split them all up into separate planks. Or here I was actually trying to decide whether I should just subdivide it first and have them all kind of be the same amount of polygons. Then I decided against that, and I just decided I'd insert edges on my own and then extrude and scale and rotate the faces as I go. And here you can see I had split them into individual slats. You can see the slats 0 through 25 there on the side. I'm just trying to find which one I was working on. And on the tops and the bottoms, I wanted it to have this nice chunky stylized look, you know, so I was moving it and tweaking vertices and pushing and pulling. And at first I thought I liked this look, but it was after the fact I figured that I didn't like it, but we'll get to that a little bit here later in the video. But yeah, you know, like I said, it's been a while since I've done any real 3D stuff, so this is mainly just a way for me to like shake off the rust and get back into a good workflow. So yeah, I went ahead and beveled the edges there, getting it ready to be sculpted. You know, it's very common to do this type of workflow, whether you're sculpting in Blender or Zbrush. You know, block out the silhouette, bevel some edges, subdivide it sometimes. I use Zbrush, and I just Dynamesh it pretty much right off the bat. I probably rely too heavily on that, but before I did that, I decided the edges were too straight and perfect, and that definitely is something that you kind of want to stay away from if you're doing stylized stuff, because that's kind of the point of it. It's not perfect, it's exaggerated. There's stuff about it that just looks off when there's all these perfect lines. But after I did that, I Dynameshed it, and then I jumped into sculpting and just knocking down the super harsh edges. You know, I guess you could say I'm slightly rounding them off, but not too much. I'm using the trim dynamic brush to knock it down and just give it a little bit of a softer look. I don't want it to be mushy looking. You know, you want edges there to catch some highlights and show like the imperfections of the wood. And wood is, you know, it's a little bit of a hard surface, but not super hard like a rock. So like rock, you would have like a little more aggressiveness and jaggedness to it. And I like to go through and use the BPR render a lot and switch matte caps just to see what the highlights are doing, what the sculpt is looking like. You know, it's generally a good thing to do to just make sure everything's looking the way you want it to look, or how you think you want it to look. This is how I thought I wanted it to look. But yeah, going through here, knocking the edges down. You know, that's one of the nice things about uh, this type of project, or giving yourself a warm-up project. You get to do a lot of repetitive stuff, and that sounds silly to say, but you know, a lot of pretty much any form of art or music or sports, you know, like that's what you do. You practice by doing repetitive stuff, and you know, you warm up with drills, and then you get into the actual playing the game, so to speak. Same thing with 3D modeling. You do the same thing over and over. You know, I'm gonna do this same workflow on each plank, um, and it helps you build like muscle memory. It helps me anyway. But yeah, for the grooves there, I use the classic Orb's crack brush, um, and I make a couple deep ones, and then I make some shallower, more faint ones, just so it looks like, you know, like stylized wood. And every now and then you got to give it the little swirl, because you know, it wouldn't be stylized if it didn't have a swirl somewhere on it, right? No. But I use this end brush to make uh, the wood grain at the ends. Some divots there, little holes, some imperfections. Not too much. I try to stay away from micro details when I do stylized stuff, because if it is something that's gonna have micro details and it's like that, I just use Substance Painter to build that in the texture, because it's, unless you're making something that's going to be real high fidelity, I don't think you need to put that in a sculpt. You know, this is going to be something I'll end up using in a little stylized diorama for myself. Right here, these two small planks. Basically, what I did was I duplicated one of the sides, and then I just rotated it. And then I took one of the planks, and I used the trim curve brush, slice curve, clip curve, and then just cut the plank in half, and then just went back through, dynameshed it, and here I am knocking it down, the harsh edges down with the trim dynamic. Oh, excuse me. You know, like I said, yeah, it's very repetitive, but it's good for you. It helps you build up like a style and like a workflow. Sculpting for me is very relaxing. Like I was listening to music when I was doing this and just kind of zoning out. It was super fun. Yeah, there's the other side. And then my plan for this is just to use the mirror modifier when I bring it back into Blender. In here, I just use the mirror and weld, just so I can see the overall shape and that it's looking the way I want it to. Use that transpose gizmo and then duplicate, rotate, kind of rinse and repeat to get the top and the bottom. This way I really get to see what it looks like. And at first I was fairly happy with it, but the top and the bottom, they were just too chunky. And after looking at some of the references I had, I wasn't happy with it, so I just used the clip curve. I think that's what it's called, clip curve, or is it slice curve? I think it's the clip curve. But anyways, yeah, I knocked it down and tweaked the edges that were too straight looking, the vertical edges. And I go back through here in a second, and I resculpt the tops and the bottoms, just not so chunky, because that wasn't what I was shooting for. Here I'm kind of playing with the overall silhouette. I thought I wanted the top and bottoms to curve in a little bit, but I actually ended up making just the top curve in. It's very, very subtle, but the top actually is just a tiny bit smaller than the scaled down a tiny bit more than the bottom. So it's almost like, I guess you could say, a very slight pyramid. Yeah, this looks like a good spot to finish. Here's the finished project. Just kind of duplicated, and I used the planks for the floor there. But we'll take a look at the rest of the process in the next video. We'll be doing the metal bands and some sculpting in Zbrush. So stay tuned for that. And I hope you guys enjoyed this. And I will see you guys in the next video. All right. Peace out. Take care. And we'll see you next time.